The Ushiramiya family gathers for their annual family conference on the island of Rakanjima, where they discuss the inheritance of the ailing family head, Kinzo. We are introduced to several characters of the family, from uncles and aunties and young relatives and cousins to the servants. As the family makes its way up to the mansion, Maria notices how one of the roses looks particularly shriveled. Entering the mansion, Battler, who has not attended the conference in 6 years, notices a new painting in the foyer of the mansion. He is told by his cousins George that it is a portrait of the Golden Witch, Beatrice. Their grandpa, the family head, Kinzo, believes in the existence of witches and desires to see her again. Family history reveals that the Ushiramiya were a prosperous family, owning many mills until the great earthquake wiped everything out and killed many of the family members. Kinzo was tasked with rebuilding everything, and he used his wealth and extreme luck to turn the tables around and make the family prosperous again. It is rumored that he made a contract with Beatrice to sell his soul in exchange for 10 tons of gold, which is equivalent to 20 billion yen. Battler does not believe in witches or magic and doubts Beatrice's existence. Meanwhile, the adults are beginning to talk about inheritance. Hideyoshi tells Cross that they'll allow the distribution of assets if he accepts their conditions. A dumbfounded Cross asks him to explain. Rudolph tells him the first condition is that Cross must admit to having discovered their father's gold. Eva tells him the second condition is to let each of the siblings have a portion of the gold as their share. Hideyoshi tells him that the third condition was that the family successor would receive 50% of the gold, and the remaining was to be split amongst the other siblings. Cross sarcastically drawls, saying he wouldn't mind helping his dear siblings, but he was short on cash himself. Cross laughs derisively, asking his siblings if they would like to solve Beatrice's epitaph together. At the beach, the cousins are having a picnic, where they also discuss the witch's epitaph. Maria hands out scorpion charms to her cousins, saying they have anti-magic property and will protect them from Beatrice. The cousins return to the rose garden just as the storm begins to brew, and Maria begins to make a fuss about how her rose from earlier was missing. The cousins help her in her search, and Rosa, Maria's mother, joins them. Rosa, who already has a headache, is further stressed out by Maria's constant whining and slaps her across the face. The rest can't get involved in this personal family problem, and Rosa abandons her and goes back to the mansion, leaving Maria to search for herself. When it begins to rain, Battler, Jessica, George, and Rosa go outside to find Maria with an umbrella she did not have before, which Maria says Beatrice gave her. During dinner, no one admits to giving Maria her umbrella, leaving them to wonder if there is an additional resident among the 18 guests. After everyone finishes eating, Maria reads a letter she claims to have received from Beatrice earlier, stating that Beatrice will take everything from the Ushiramiya family if no one can solve the portrait's cryptic epitaph. The adults can hardly believe this and go to Kinzo's study to question him about the letter, but to no avail. Soon after, Battler and his mother, Kairi, discuss the letter, with Kairi posing 2 theories. Either there really is a hidden 19th person, or one of the 18 is posing as Beatrice. Using chessboard thinking, she puts herself in Beatrice's perspective and deduces that one of the 18 person disguised and gave a letter to Maria, creating the illusion that there is a 19th person. Father of Battler, Rudolph, interrupts them to call Kairi back to the conference. Afterwards, Rudolph wants to have a private talk with Kairi and Battler, making an ominous remark that he will probably be killed tonight. Meanwhile, Cross shows Natsuhi into a locked room containing a single gold bar. The letter's mention of solving the epitaph and claiming the gold might be true after all. Later, George proposes to Shannon, one of the servants, and asks her to give her reply the next day by wearing the ring on a finger of her choice. The following morning, the servants awake and start to prepare breakfast, only to see that Goto, the head cook of Kinzo's mansion, is nowhere to be found. Genji goes to wake Natsuhi, who put the scorpion charm on her doorknob, and tells her that the phone lines are out. Natsuhi then sees strange marks and what appears to be blood all over her door, thinking it to be a disgusting prank. The other relatives awake and find that not only is Goto missing, but Cross, Rudolph, Rosa, Kairi, and Shannon are also missing. Later, Natsuhi is informed of a strange symbol painted in red on the outdoor tool shed. They believe the missing people are inside. The cousins, who are unaware of these events, are relaxing in the parlor when Nanjo is called to investigate the shed. Battler, Jessica, and George follow to discover the family standing around the open tool shed, with the missing people's brutally murdered bodies inside. Battler and Jessica break down crying at the sight of their dead parents as Shannon's body is shown to be among them, wearing George's ring on her left ring finger. The family is still in shock over seeing the corpses inside the tool shed, their faces horribly destroyed. George asks Hideyoshi, who's inspecting the bodies, to see if Shannon's wearing a ring. He confirms this and asks George not to look, asking instead that he remember the last time George saw Shannon's real face. They discovered several bloodstains inside the dining room. After investigating, they deduce that the culprit must have killed the 6 people in that room before dragging them to the tool shed. Later, when they question Maria about the circle, she becomes possessed as she explains to the family what the strange symbol on the tool shed was, a magic circle that can transport things between locked doors. Genji notes that their radio is not working, effectively leaving everyone stranded on the island with the culprit until the typhoon passes. Natsui and Eva also report that Kinzo wasn't inside his room, so the family searches around the entire mansion for him, stopping by the servant room. Battler goes through the key box inside to see that the key to the tool shed is still there. Battler finds it strange that the culprit would go to the trouble of putting the key back instead of throwing it away when they killed the 6 people. He deduces that the culprit is familiar with the mansion's layout. Eva then talks to Battler about the possibility that the servants may be the culprits, and the possibility of more than one. But Battler refutes this. The culprit made a big show of the murders, so if the servants really were responsible, they could have made the murders look like an accident instead of drawing attention to them. Battler talks to the servants about Beatrice. The servants explain that Beatrice was a real person and was the one who gave Kinzo the gold many years ago. They also claim Beatrice is on the island with them but has no form, much to Battler's disbelief. Maria soon joins the conversation and adds that Battler cannot see her because he lacks the proper wavelength, and that he's only alive thanks to the scorpion charm she gave him, which wards off magic abilities. Battler then says he actually lost the charm, and leaves after expressing his belief that Beatrice isn't real. Back in the parlor, Natsuhi arrives carrying an old Winchester, a Western rifle from Kinzo's gun collection. The cousins continue discussing the existence of Beatrice. Battler thinks the culprit wanted to make it look like the crime was committed by a witch, so as to draw attention to an unknown 19th person. Eva then announces her suspicions regarding Kinzo's disappearance. When Eva went to meet Natsuhi at the study in the morning, she placed a paper in the crack of the study door. Later, after she and Natsuhi went there to speak with Kinzo after the murders, the paper fell out, meaning that no one had opened the door since then. Eva then accuses Natsuhi of killing Kinzo and hiding his body, trying to claim the Ushiramiya family wealth for herself. Battler deduces Eva's theory to be wrong. It could have been that Kinzo was hiding while they returned to look for him and then left the place. Eva disagrees with why Kinzo would do something so odd, so Battler points out that Eva did the odd thing too by placing that paper. Eva and Hideyoshi return to their room to relax. Later, Genji and Kanon knock on the door to Eva and Hideyoshi's room to call them to dinner, but get no response. Fearing the worst, they unlock the room with their keys to get inside, only for the chain to block their entry. Kanon returns with a cutter. By this time, they find yet another strange symbol drawn on the door. They break the chain and rush inside, only to find Eva and Hideyoshi's dead bodies with strange spikes embedded into their heads. George falls into despair at the sight of Eva and Hideyoshi's corpses, having lost his fiancée, and now his parents. Natsui finds another letter from Beatrice, placed underneath the door. As they lock Eva's door to preserve the crime scene for when the police arrive, the group notices an odd smell filling the mansion. Kanon goes to investigate the boiler room along with Kumasawa. Kanon and Kumasawa arrive at the boiler room, discovering that the weird smell is indeed coming from there. Kanon goes in by himself and calls out to Beatrice that he will be the one to stop her summoning. Nobody responds, and Kanon gets stabbed with a stake as clanging noises are heard. Natsui and the rest of the group enter the boiler room, where Kanon has pulled the stake out and is bleeding to death. Battler sees an open door leading outside and runs through, hoping to catch the culprit. He shines his flashlight through the darkness, only to find nothing. Nanjo works on saving Kanon as Genji shows off the bloodied stake to the family. This was the same kind of stake used to kill Eva and Hideyoshi. They've also determined that the smell was coming from Kinzo, whose charred corpse was inside the incinerator. Genji notices that Kinzo is missing the head's ring on his finger. At this point, they are assuming the culprit has the master key to all the rooms. Battler even thinks that the culprit may be one of the dead. Because their faces were ripped off, there was no telling if it was them, and the corpse might be replaced with a similar one. Feeling they cannot be safe in any room, Genji thinks there is one, Kinzo's study. Maria notes that even Beatrice can't get into the study, pointing at the scorpion magic circles on the doorknobs, the same ones as on her charms. The survivors enter Kinzo's study, and Genji closes the door, which automatically locks. Natsui pulls out the scorpion charm that she hung on her own door, and Maria explains that Beatrice couldn't touch her because of it. Natsui realizes that's why the strange marks appeared. She then reads out the letter they found in Eva's room. But it only has one sentence, "Praise my name." The group finally asked Genji who she really was. Genji explains that Beatrice has been dead for a long time. Kinzo was unhappy after a forced marriage, and then fell in love with Beatrice. After her death, Kinzo turned to black magic to find a way to revive her. Battler asks Genji if Kinzo ever had any kids with Beatrice, to which he denies the thought. Jessica starts talking about a rumor that Kinzo donated to an orphanage and took kids from there to use as sacrifices for black magic experiments. Battler then realizes that the murders were following the epitaph. The 6 people in the tool shed were the 6 chosen by the key. Eva and Hideyoshi were the 2 who were close, and Kinzo and Kanon had their heads and chests gouged, respectively. Jessica notes the next few lines requiring 3 more people to die, while George mentions the last line, where none shall be left alive. Maria laughs at this development, saying that the witch will revive everyone at the end, and points to a letter. Another one has suddenly appeared on the table behind them. While pointing her gun at Genji, Chio, and Nanju as Battler reads the letter, it's another message from Beatrice, mocking them and telling them to abandon all hopes of leaving the island alive. Since Genji, Nanjo, Kumasawa, or Maria are the only possible suspects for planting the letter, Natsui forces them to leave the study. They comply, and Genji leaves his keys with her. As Maria begins to leave, Battler hands her his scorpion charm, which he lied about losing earlier so he could contradict her. Battler looks through the letter again and sees that it came with yet another strange symbol drawn on a piece of paper. After doing some research in Kinzo's books, they determine that it's a magic circle meant to cause discord and divide people. The group realizes that they played right into Beatrice's hands. Suddenly, the phone rings, with Maria singing on the other end. Natsui's group rushes downstairs to find Genji, Nanjo, and Kumasawa murdered, their faces destroyed and stakes in their corpses, and Maria standing in the corner still singing. Upon being pressed about the murders, Maria tells them that Beatrice is the culprit, but Beatrice came inside with magic and asked Maria to stand in front of the wall and sing. Battler refuses to accept this explanation and begins arguing with her, until Jessica notices that Natsui is missing. Maria saw Natsui leaving the room reading a letter, and they found that she barred everyone inside the room. Natsui stands outside the parlor and demands Beatrice show herself, seeing a golden butterfly. By the time everyone breaks out of the parlor, they see Natsui as she drops dead, apparently having committed suicide. Maria is ecstatic and congratulates Beatrice, announcing that the 9th and 10th twilights are soon to pass. Beatrice will revive, and nobody will survive. Battler is enraged that Maria is still supporting Beatrice when they're the last 4 survivors, and he picks up Natsui's gun. He announces his resolve to defy Beatrice until the very end, when Maria points at the clock. The clock strikes 12, and golden butterflies begin to fill the room. Battler starts shooting them, only for the butterflies to split and turn into more butterflies. As George and Jessica stare in awe, Battler is still defiant, denying the existence of magic. The scene ends with an ominous cackling heard in front of Beatrice's portrait. Outside Rockinjima, some fishermen discover a message in a bottle floating in the ocean. It's a message written by Maria, asking whoever finds it to reveal the truth. Some text on the screen appears, saying even now, the truth behind the Rockinjima Island witch mass murder case has not been revealed. Thank you for watching. If you want to continue this anime, start with episode 5.